Hi, and welcome to Open, the show that opens the Bronx and the rest of the world to you. I'm Kibin Alleyne, and today we'll update you on what's happening in and around our borough. Coming up, Councilmember Kevin Riley is on a mission to get healthier options on the kids menu in New York City restaurants. Joining Councilmember Riley for a discussion about healthy kids meals is a community dietitian at Food Bank for New York City. Then we take a look back at an interview with the CEO and co-founder of Zapbatt, who talked to us about a way to prevent e-bike fires using new battery chemistry made of lithium titanate. After that, the process of applying for food stamps and cash benefits can be overwhelming for many New Yorkers, and this daunting process is having a negative impact on nonprofit organizations. The CEO of Westside Campaign Against Hunger speaks to us about their efforts during these troubling times. And finally, as hip-hop celebrates its 50th anniversary, it's important to acknowledge its massive global impact. The CEO of Sugar Hill Records and a pioneer of the genre discusses his role in shaping hip-hop and the future of the genre. So stay tuned, all this and much more is headed your way because we're now officially open. Hello everyone, I'm Kibin Alleyne and today is Tuesday, November 7th. You are now watching Open, a program that brings the Bronx and New York City straight to you. Don't forget to stay connected with us via social media at BronxNet TV. Leaders in New York City are working towards providing healthier meals for children in restaurants. Councilmember Kevin C. Riley has proposed a bill that will mandate kid menus to offer at least 2 healthy meals that meet specific nutrition standards. Councilmember Riley and Melania Zuniga, a community dietitian at Food Bank for New York City and volunteer from the American Heart Association, joined me to discuss how these changes can impact the health of children in the Bronx. Thank you both so much for being here with me.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you.
Now, Councilmember, can you just give us an overview of Intro 1202?
So Intro 1202 will require New York City restaurants to provide at least 2 healthy options on the kids menu and 1 healthy beverage options for children as well.
Now, what motivated you to introduce this bill focusing on children, menus, nutritional standards?
Being a council member is an amazing occupation, but my main occupation is being a dad. And as you see currently right now, more families traditionally are going out to eat when they're trying to fellowship with their, loved ones. And going out as a father can be challenging because there's usually only unhealthy options out there for parents like myself to provide our children. Usually, a lot of times we don't mind, occasionally having our child eat chicken fingers and pizza. But we also want to have a healthy option for them as well, especially when our children are very, intelligent and they currently know what they're putting inside their body today.
Now, Melanie, the Bronx is considered the least healthiest borough in the city. What specific health problems are prevalent in the Bronx community that you serve?
Yeah, so I work at Food Bank for New York City, as you mentioned, and we're the largest hunger relief organization in the 5 boroughs. And what we aim to do is provide healthy food access to communities all across New York City. And a lot of the families that we serve are facing diet-related diseases like diabetes, high cholesterol, heart disease. And they're also, these health implications are also impacting the children that they have. And something else that's really important to note is that, like Councilmember Riley mentioned, a lot of families are dining out more. And so when you're facing these, difficult challenges of like stress and time and resources, and you're being forced to buy food outside, the foods that you choose can also impact your health.
Now, how does the lack of access to nutritional food impact a patient's overall health and well-being, especially in regards to children? Although they are smarter, a lot of the times, they rely on their parents to tell them, what is okay to eat. How does that affect the children in the long run?
Yeah, for sure. Great question. So by having these options available to you, like if you're living in a community where you don't have healthy food access, then what are the foods that you're going to be choosing? Foods that are more calorie dense, that are higher in sugar, higher in fat, higher in salt, versus the foods that are more nutrient dense, that are like actually nourishing for our bodies. And when we keep choosing these foods, they become habits and then they become lifelong behaviors. And that can increase your risk of these diet related diseases that I mentioned earlier. Um, and what we want is for families and children to have access to healthy foods all across New York City. That's a right that they should have so that they can live healthier lives.
Now, the next thing I want to bring up is the milk. Now, we kind of talked about this a little bit. I don't want to say it's controversial, but for a long time, we were meant to believe that, like, milk is healthy, especially the milk that we are served at in schools, like chocolate milk. Can you just talk a little bit about, the significance of acknowledging that there needs to be healthier beverage options, and also, like, kind of highlighting, these really sugary milks that are being offered to kids?
Yeah, for sure. I think this is common knowledge, but we're all taking in a lot more sugar than we actually need, including children. And so flavored milk also has a lot of sugar. It has good nutrition like regular milk, like calcium and vitamin D, but then there's also a lot of sugar in there that makes it really enticing and enjoyable to drink. But when our kids are already intaking so much sugar already, which can increase their risk of these diet-related diseases and dental caries, we want to provide parents with healthier choices for their kids. So I think the whole purpose is just to give them more options and to be able to choose, to have the capacity and the knowledge to choose healthier beverages.
And council member, can you talk about that a little bit as well? As a
course.
parent, why you wanted to highlight the drinks? Because I think sometimes when we talk about diet, we think about just the food and we don't often think about how, what we're drinking could also contribute to our overall health.
Well, growing up, I know how challenging it was for my mother to get me to consume as much water as possible. But now I talk about the intelligence of a lot of our scholars, a lot of our kids these days, and just educating them and letting them know that you have to incorporate water with the juices, with the milk. Like it has to be create balance. And I think that's what we're trying to do today is just give a healthier option where we could create some balance and encourage parents to have their children think of healthier ways that they can actually enjoy their favorite beverage. So if you want to have the flavored milk on Monday, maybe, have some more water that day as well. So it creates some type of balance. My youngest daughter, she's into like chocolate milk now. So it's like a challenge, like the yoo-hoos, and she's loving that. But I also let her know, like I got her a nice, cool water bottle, a reusable water bottle. So she's into that as well. So she goes to school, utilizes the water bottle with the water fountain. So it's very, beneficial as well.
Now, what do you hope, what specific outcomes do you hope to accomplish through the passing of this bill?
Yeah, just encouraging balance. We really want to promote a healthier lifestyle for not only our kids but families. The trajectory of families these days, dying from underlying health conditions. We saw that during the pandemic. We want to really push a healthier lifestyle, and I think this is what Intro 1202 will push. Families are going out, they're eating. If I want to enjoy a salad, I want my child to, be able to enjoy something as healthy as possible too. So we just want to, create a more healthier lifestyle and encourage a more healthier lifestyle within our communities.
And, how has the support been from the American Heart Association and
Sure.
other organizations that are, basically trying to help you push this, healthier lifestyle for many families in the Bronx and across New York City?
American Heart Association, advocates, organizations like the YMCA through our communities have been a blessing with collaborating, partnering together, putting together community events, wellness events. I have community leaders right now currently contacting my office to put together wellness events for the community because they want to go out and just teach like small exercises that you could do within your household because everyone's busy, everyone's busy, so it's a challenge to go to the gym 3 to 4 times a week. But if taking a 10-minute walk a day could prevent a stroke. and that's what we really want to encourage, within our community. So American Heart Association has been a blessing. We collaborate on tons of events, from CPR events to kind of pushing, this healthier balance agenda within our community as well. So we're encouraging other groups in the community to, contact our office and let's collaborate.
Now, Melanie, in your opinion, what are some key challenges or obstacles that parents face when providing healthier food choices for their kids?
Yeah, I think there's so many: time, stress, food marketing, nutrition labeling that can be really confusing to understand, nutrition education, resources, where you live. I feel like
Yeah.
there's so many that can impact your food choices. And I think all families want to provide healthy foods for their kids, and sometimes it's not always easy to do so. Like I grew up with a single mom, and it could be hard to provide food and work a full-time job and go to school full-time and, take care of your kids. And so sometimes you have to rely on the restaurants that are in your neighborhood. But if those restaurants don't have options that are super healthy for your kids, then, it may not feel like the best option. So with this bill, I feel like the options on the menu can be a little bit more substantial. You can choose, maybe your kid wants a burger that day, or maybe they're going to choose the other option that has a little bit more fruits and vegetables or something like that. And that can definitely make an impact. And studies have shown that we're eating more outside now versus like spending money on groceries. And so this definitely has like a direct impact on our lives and our kids' lives.
Now, Councilmember Riley, what are the next steps for this bill in September 2023?
Well, we introduced the bill September 28th of this year. Currently, right now, I think we have about 13 co-sponsors on the bill. So we're trying to get it a hearing in the Committee on Health, which is chaired by Councilmember Shulman. Once we get that committee, it will go on the council floor for a floor vote for the entire council. Then the mayor will sign it into law. And once it's enacted, it goes into law after 180 days.
Now, how can members of your district or or people in the Bronx collaborate with elected officials to address health disparities in their community?
Reach out to us. One thing I learned as an elected official, we have brilliant people within our community that have tremendous ideas. Sometimes the generic way of wellness is not going to the gym, like I mentioned earlier. It's coming outside, doing yoga, stretching, going for a walk, like how I said, going for bike rides. There's different ways to keep our community active. One thing I also promote is making sure our children are active as well. With these iPads and cell phones, it's so hard to rip them away from screen time. So you want to make sure that they're active. So what we do as elected officials, we try to invest in as much community-based organizations that have like tennis programs, basketball programs, coding programs, literacy programs, just making sure that the kids are active. And that's what we want to make sure doing today. So reach out to your elected officials, reach out to our office. We're always open to collaborating with individuals from our community. So please reach out and let's keep this healthy campaign going.
And I love that you brought up just kids being active as well, because I think sometimes people forget about children. Like you see like Zumba classes or a lot of things that are targeted towards like maybe older people or just adults in general. And you don't often see that many things like that's just designed for kids to be active in. So I think that's amazing. I also want to add that like I noticed that sometimes like in neighborhoods you'll see like abandoned parks, and those are areas where like kids are into their iPads and stuff, but there also like needs to be space for them to be active.
Correct.
So I appreciate you for first being here. Thank you both so much for joining us and mentioning that as well.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And it's important, like open spaces are truly important. Like in my community, I work with community leaders to try to improve the parks. So reach out to your elected officials if there's a specific park, because what we do realize that a lot of children don't like going to a specific park because the amenities there are so run down and old that they don't want to utilize them. So sometimes as elected official, we don't go to the park every day. I don't slide down each playground every day, which I wish I can, but I don't slide down each slide every day. I don't swing in each swing every day. So sometimes we need those parents, those community leaders just to come to us to let us know so we can find some way to fit it within our budget. So open spaces are truly important.
Well, once again, thank you both so much.
Yeah,
All right,
thank
Thank
you.
you. Thank you for having us.
To find out more about the bill Intro 1202, please go to Council Member Riley's website, which you can find on the screen below. Don't go away. We'll be back with more Open right after this.
Jason, let's go see your room.
What do you think? We kept it a little spare, so you can decorate it how you like.
Dinner!
Go. Excellent. Yeah, I saw you guys out there. We're in the
Even though we didn't grow up together, he's my favorite brother.
Hey, sis.
I'm the baby of the family, and he's the gentle giant.
What you know about Port Georgia?
Man, please, that's a classic.
You know when they say people are a rare breed? Yeah, he's that.
I'm sorry, I'll be back in a few hours.
Don't worry, Shug. You know I'm for you.
I know.
Go get the football.
That was my favorite memory. He was always for ya. This is a true story of me, Bridget Floyd, and this guy, George Perry Floyd Jr., my big brother.
Welcome back. E-bike fires continue to be an ongoing issue within NYC, and there are more and more reports about these fires. We would like to take this moment to look back at an interview with Charlie Welch, the CEO and co-founder of Zapbatt, where we discuss a way to prevent e-bike fires using new battery chemistry made of lithium titanate. Now, for those who are unaware, can you just tell us a little bit of more backstory on the situation with e-bikes and the dangers that they're causing around our city?
Absolutely. So New York is like a perfect storm for e-bike batteries because they're put in a very stressful environment in almost every way. New York has hot, cold, humid, salt on the streets, and for delivery workers who are using e-bike batteries, they're typically using them for long hours, as much as they can, and then immediately putting them to charge. And so for batteries, it's a very stressful environment to put them into. And we're seeing what's happening when part of the fringe cases are showing of what happens when safety starts to come in line and those batteries are getting overstressed or starting to go into thermal runaway.
Right. And I could imagine in like an area like New York City where it's so condensed and so many people, like having a fire with a battery is just like not the best thing. Can you just tell us a little bit, what was the process or inspiration behind the development of Zapbatt lithium, am I saying this correct, titanate batteries?
Correct, titanate.
Okay, so yeah, can you just talk about the inspiration behind that and, maybe what got the organization thinking of this?
Absolutely. So I had worked with the military for a long time in battery research, putting battery systems in as exotic environments as you can think of on and off this planet. I've even put battery systems up in the Arctic with polar bears. So I know what it's like to put batteries in kind of all the worst case conditions. So part of the inspiration was that a lot of industries are looking for a better battery technology, but most importantly, they're looking for something that's proven. And so as opposed to inventing a new battery, at Zapbatt, we're trying to commercialize this chemistry, lithium titanate, which has actually been around for quite a while. It's just kind of existed in the shadows in all these different markets. And so we're trying to offer industries something that's been not only proven throughout the last 1 to 2 decades, but has improvements in safety and lifetime and charge time and reliability across the board. So for cities like New York, they can get access to a new battery technology, even though it's not new, but it solves a big problem for them in a variety of ways. batteries.
Now, I kind of heard you mention a few things, but can you talk about the advantages of using this new battery over what so many e-bikes are currently using, which is lithium-ion batteries?
Absolutely. So there's three key advantages. One is charge time. So our e-bike battery can fully charge from 0 to 100 in about 15 minutes, which typically can take 4 to 5 hours, which adds a lot of convenience for consumers and delivery workers. The second one is lifespan. So on average, our battery over its lifetime will outlast 10 to 15 lithium-ion e-bike batteries. A normal e-bike battery is rated for around 1,000 cycles, or how many times you charge and discharge it. Ours is certified for 15,000. So it's a much more economical lifetime. And then the last one is safety. So because of the core chemistry in lithium titanate, it is at the top of the list when it comes to safety for any type of lithium chemistry battery. The e-bike battery here on our desk right now, I could hammer a nail straight through if I wanted to right now without it going into thermal runaway. So we're trying to offer something that improves on all three categories that are affecting New York for these safety, reliability, and lifetime problems.
Now, you talked about the lifespan. I want to know, is that what is causing some of those lithium ion batteries to, I guess, explode or start these fires? Is it because of the lifespan of it, or is it like overcharging? What's exactly causing those fires?
Yeah, great question, and variety of reasons. So lifespan is definitely a factor. So people are trying to push how long their battery can last. We're in this kind of first wave of electrification, and we're seeing what happens when some of these systems start to age, and lifespan is definitely a critical factor for that. The second one is just sometimes mismatch. So sometimes people plug in the wrong charger into the wrong battery, and that's a big issue for lithium-ion batteries because if you plug in the wrong charger, you can actually force the battery into a thermal runaway, which a little known fact is that the reason battery fires are so bad is they have all three ingredients for a self-sustaining fire. They have oxygen, they have heat, and they have fuel. So once the fire is started, there's no putting it out until the battery's dumped all of its energy. So there's kind of this myriad of factors that are actually causing the fires, unfortunately, from a variety of conditions.
So, a lot of what you mentioned sounds very scientific. But so many people use these things, or these bikes or these batteries on a daily basis. Can you talk about how these new batteries, or as you mentioned, they're not new, but I guess they're new to this area. How will they have to navigate that? Is this something that they'll have to think about when they charge, or is this something that's a little bit different and probably an advantage of getting this over lithium-ion batteries?
No, we hope it to be just a one-for-one swap. You take the battery off of your e-bike, put a Zapbatt battery on, and then you'd now get all these great benefits to it. We want to really remove all the barriers to entry for getting access to this technology and kind of taking away a bunch of the safety issues. For example, our battery actually, oversimplified, is kind of a smart battery. So you can actually plug in any charger you want into the battery using a piece of technology we've developed. And the battery will automatically adjust all of its internals so that it can charge off any charger, again, removing a safety factor that has been historically challenging for e-bike batteries.
Now, because of the high cost of quality e-bikes, users often purchase cheaper options that compromise their safety. Can you expand on how this practice is actually going to cost people a lot more in the long run?
Definitely. So in the e-bike space, folks have looked at the bottom line upfront cost historically, but we're trying to shift them to more of a total cost of ownership. So an e-bike battery for a delivery worker most likely lasts 6 months to a year. And our battery is a little bit more expensive, but they'll last them 5 to 10 years plus. We technically say up to 20, but we know that sometimes people want to upgrade or certain things in there. So,
okay. Now, so many household items rely on lithium batteries. Would lithium titanate work for these items as well?
Absolutely. We Zapbatt are trying to get lithium titanate into a whole variety of products just because we want to promote the idea that batteries should last longer, both from a cost but from a sustainability standpoint, as well as have the convenience of faster charging, of a safer technology in your house. And that applies to almost any product you see around you in your home today.
Now, I think the battery that you showed us was lithium ion, correct?
No, this is one of ours. So this is a lithium titanate. So this is the lithium titanate core chemistry, and then this is our electronics that help it unlock so it can do what it does so well.
Now, like charging that, how does that differ from what people are doing now?
So that's kind of the guts of it, obviously. Charging would be the exact same. It would come with a standard charger that you plug in, and then it would just be faster, basically. So.
Now, is there any specific guidelines that users must follow to ensure safety, good performance, and longevity when they are using Zapbatt batteries?
For us, not as much. So we're since this is a military proven technology, we're comfortable telling people push it to its boundaries as much as you want. And then we've added a lot of the internal safety checks so that things like using different chargers or different aspects are all taken care of. So we wanted to remove that barrier that people have to have this big knowledge base of batteries to be able to use something safely.
Now, how can e-bike users start to transition into lithium titanate batteries? I know for a lot of people, when they hear something new, sometimes they're a little bit apprehensive, but what can that transition process look like for e-bike users?
Yeah, so we Zapbatt for New York specifically are going to be launching a initial e-bike battery operation in New York this fall. And so we're hoping people can kind of keep their ear to the ground and see which operators or which e-bike companies are going to be launching this battery first, and then hopefully working with some companies to offer a retrofit so that if they wanted to swap to our battery, they could purchase one from us directly or from one of our partners, so that within the next year, anybody would have the option to switch to a Zapbatt battery.
And just to clarify, do they need to purchase possibly a new bike that would be upgraded for this, or do they simply just need the new battery?
Just need the new battery. Yeah, they can keep their bike.
Now, can you just expand on maybe the importance? Like I mentioned, some people may not want to make the switch, or they may think there's nothing wrong with their current batteries. But can you just stress the importance of, really paying attention to this, and how you can't really put a price on your safety, and eventually, if you're working in that field, you don't want to put on a price on that either. So can you just expand on that a little bit more?
Absolutely. The core of it is that to have a truly safe system, you need to change the core chemistry of the battery. Like, there's a good reason our cars don't run on, nitromethane racing fuel. It's because sure, they could get better performance, but it'd be an unsafe thing to do. So at the core of it, you want a battery that inherently has improved safety features in the battery chemistry like lithium titanate, and has been proven to do so. With all other lithium-ion battery chemistries, you are pushing a boundary of that chemistry in certain conditions, having big challenges and causing fires. And so we highly encourage people to really think about that, because it is something that they can't prevent when it does happen. And as New York has seen, the prevalency is only going up, unfortunately. So we think it's time for people to adopt a safer and proven technology like lithium titanate into their e-bikes.
And do you think that possibly the city should help educate? Because I think education is probably like one of the main important things. Should they educate people in learning more about this?
Absolutely. I mean, the amount of batteries in and around our self in the next 10 years is going up. And I think that the last thing we want is safety issues, because that's only going to impede on the adoption of electrification. So we would love for the city to work, especially with gig workers, delivery workers, everybody that's really using a battery to drive their business. And we think that that's an important thing to gain education on, because we only see that trend going upwards currently.
Well, Charlie, I want to thank you so much for joining us and having this conversation.
Yeah, thank you for having me, and thanks for asking all those great questions.
Please go to www.zapbatt.com to find out more about Zapbatt batteries. We'd like to thank Charlie Welch for coming on the show to discuss this ongoing issue within New York City, and we appreciate the efforts of him and his team to work towards a solution. Stay tuned, we have more open for you right after this.
Kids!
I don't want to talk about it.
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 Families don't have to talk about everything, but they should talk about how to plan for an emergency.
Kids, you all right?
This family's prepared. Get tips and resources to make your family's emergency plan. Go to nyc.gov/readyny or call 311 for more information.
I don't know why you're so sad. You've got a roof over your head.
Bro, you gotta stop with that depression stuff. That's a white people thing.
Escúchame, en esta casa los hombres no lloran.
You alright?
It just feels like it's coming from everywhere.
Do you want to talk about it? Thanks for hearing me out, bro. Appreciate it.
You can talk to me if you're feeling sad.
Whenever you need to talk, I'm here, okay?
Welcome back. The process of applying for food stamps and cash benefits can be an overwhelming process for many New Yorkers. This daunting process is having a negative impact on nonprofit organizations like the West Side Campaign Against Hunger, which aims to distribute healthy food across New York City. The mismanagement of these applications is now causing strain on nonprofits throughout the city who are left to fill in the gaps. The CEO of WSCAH, Greg Silverman, joins me to discuss this growing concern. Greg, thank you so much for joining me.
Happy to be here. Thanks.
Now, can you tell us a little bit about the West Side Campaign Against Hunger's mission and the communities that it serves?
Yeah, the West Side Campaign Against Hunger has been around about 44 years. It's a food pantry distributing food. Our focus is to make sure all New Yorkers have access with dignity to a choice of healthy food and supportive services. We service customers from all 5 boroughs, about 75,000 customers each and every year.
Now, can you just explain what motivated the founding of the organization in 1979? So as you mentioned, it's been a very long time.
Yeah. Like many food pantries and anti-hunger organizations in New York City, the 70s were, in New York, were a really rough time. And a lot of anti-hunger organizations started at that time period because they saw the need all over the city for food. And so a lot of religious institutions, community groups came together on the Upper West Side and started distributing food in the basement of a church on 86th Street, which is where we've been based for that entire time.
Now, how has the mission evolved over the years? Or, has it stayed true to its core mission?
I mean, WSCAH, like most organizations, evolves over time. WSCAH is affectionately named for West Side Campaign Against Hunger. Most pantries demand that customers come to get food at a pantry. It seems sort of obvious in some ways, but we've tried to really flip that model, right? Why would you make people come to food when you can bring the food to people? We want to make sure our customers have access to the food in the way they want it. And so we've been focused over time to really elevate the amount of fresh produce as well. We give out about over 2 million pounds of fresh produce this year. So we're super focused on making healthy options for people.
So can you actually expand on that? So you actually go to, do you go to people's homes or, how does that work?
Well, we're really trying to mimic the market, right? So we have community partners where we distribute with. So you don't need to be a pantry to do great work in your community. So whether it's a church, a senior center, a workforce development group, we can distribute with them great food to their network. We can have hubs where people can pick up their food. We can deliver food to people's homes. We do a lot with New York Presbyterian, giving food to moms with young kids and seniors who might not have the ability to get to one of these locations. So we think there's lots of tools and tactics out there, just like lots of people use to get their groceries and their healthy food.
And also what stands out to me is that comfort and where people feel safe seems to be like kind of at the core of this because, going to, a church where people, already go to, there's this sense of security. And I know that unfortunately there is a stigma, associated with like going to, a building that just may like give out food, especially if people aren't familiar with that. So I think it's amazing that, you're partnering with, these community organizations that people already trust and feel comfortable with. So I think that's pretty amazing. And I think that like any organization that kind of does this work should, be working with the community because those are the people, those are the places that people trust the most. So now, could you tell us a little bit more about the organization's continuing efforts to provide the community with healthy food options, particularly through the Roundtable Initiative?
Yeah, so my background's as a chef and restaurant owner, so I'm very much used to, all I want is my customers to have the best food possible. That just happens that now I don't charge my customers, which is much better situation. But I also know that in the wholesale world of getting food, oftentimes pricing is an issue. So what Westside Campaign Against Hunger did is we reached out to now 7 other organizations across the city and started to pool our purchase power. So Met Council, who works across the city, New York Common Pantry, Part of the Solution in the Bronx, and others, we all came together and said, like, let's buy different products together so we get a better price, so we save money, and so that we can drive that money back to serve more people healthy food. So we just realized we're mission focused, all these organizations. So it's just making sure everyone gets the food they need.
Now, here's where, I'm assuming a lot of the concern comes in. Processing rates for SNAP and HRA benefits have dropped considerably in comparison with previous years. Can you elaborate more on this problem and, how it reflects or what it reflects about the city's priorities?
Yeah, I mean, this is where the true issue is, right? Pantries do a great job of distributing food, but many of us as well do benefits enrollment because just giving someone the food doesn't really help lift people up out of long-term food insecurity. So our staff, we have a whole team that signs people up for SNAP and re-enrolls people in SNAP. Now, once we do that work, we're trusted partners of our customers and sign them up and send in the information to the city. The processing rates are abysmal, right? They're nowhere, they're not at the level they're supposed to be. And so our customers are waiting months to get their SNAP approvals. And as well, so therefore our customers are not getting the access to the cash they need to spend to buy more groceries, which means our customers need more food from pantries like the Westside Campaign Against Hunger.
So it kind of like is creating almost like a cycle, right? Would you say?
It's an anti-virtuous cycle,
right?
And in truth, what you're also doing is slowing down the economy, right? Because this is federal dollars that will be spent locally. And so when we stop that process, we're slowing up grocers and bodegas and other shops from getting money in the door that'll help their businesses go. Like we want to keep the economy pushing and make sure our customers get the food they need. And so when we stop processing the applications or slow up the processing time, we're really putting a wrench in the works of feeding New Yorkers in need.
Now, as we also mentioned that it's important to know that the holidays, are upon us, and food and meals, are a huge part of that. How will the process or this like very like daunting process affect so many families who are going to be, expecting to kind of share meals with their other family members?
Yeah, I mean, we know every year the most stressful time of the year for most people, whether they're in food insecure or not, is this holiday season. It should be the most joyous time, but you combine questions of food insecurity, you have the migrant crisis, you have inflation, and you have the inability to get your SNAP benefits on time. You're just constricting people's dollars. Your kids I have small kids, I know my kids are going to want toys for the holidays. You're going to want to spend those dollars for certain things for your family. And therefore, when the SNAP money doesn't show up, you're going to have to make more choices. And you're not going to have that great family experience at the holidays. And so that's what we spend a lot of time on, making sure, doubling down. And, we're going to make sure over 13,000 families get turkeys or pork shoulder or gift cards for vegetarian options because the city and the state and the federal government are not stepping up to fill the need.
Now, only 40% of SNAP applications were processed in a timely manner. How has this impacted your organization, or how will this, especially, with the holidays coming up, how do you see it impacting your organization?
I mean, firstly, yeah, it's important for the organization, but first and foremost is always the customers, right? It's going to impact our customers. 75,000 Westside Campaign Against Hunger customers are affected when benefits don't come in on time. For organizations like Westside Campaign Against Hunger and many others, we're going to end up having to spend more money on food because we have to fill in the gap where the public sector is failing. So we're spending more money, which means the charity sector is filling in a need that should be taken care of by our combined city, state, and federal governments.
Now, what steps have the West Side Campaign Against Hunger taken to adapt and continue to serve communities in the face of prolonged processing times?
I mean, for us, we spend, like I said, more dollars, right? We probably are going to spend 50% more money this year on purchased food, especially purchased fresh produce. Costs are really high, but at the same time, we're not going to let our community go hungry. So we advocate and spend time with city council and talking to elected officials at a federal level as well to try to push things related to SNAP expansion and at the federal level and increase speeding up processing times. But we're not seeing any light at the end of the tunnel as of yet.
That kind of leads into my next question. What steps do you believe New York City should take to ensure timely access to SNAP and HR benefits, are kind of in the works?
Yeah, I mean, it's easy for me maybe from my perch. I mean, I know in my own work, we consider like a budget as a moral document. And so where you put your money says a lot about what you believe in. And so if we're not willing to put city dollars to making sure hungry New Yorkers get fed, that's problematic. And I think we need to spend the money to make sure HRA is staffed up with the resources they need to process the applications. It's not that complex.
Now, I also want to bring up the fact that we can't ignore that COVID probably had a significant impact on why so many people did rely on, food pantry and, benefits like that. Can you just talk about maybe what you saw prior to COVID and then, how the need kind of increased after or during?
Well, right. Hunger existed and food insecurity existed and before the pandemic for sure. And in the pandemic, it became even more intense due to the changing nature of jobs and illness and death and so much stresses for families. At the same time, a federal safety net was created or was expanded during COVID that actually decreased food insecurity. We actually built a safety net that worked. And then when we decided, I guess as a country, that the pandemic was technically over, we cut that safety net back. And so, shocking, the numbers of people on food insecure who are food insecure has been rising astronomically. We are twice as busy as we were during the height of the pandemic, which was supposedly the busiest time for hunger in recent memory.
Now, how can the public and policymakers support nonprofits like WSCAH in their mission to combat hunger and food insecurity in New York City?
Yeah, I think people who live in New York City need to reach out to their elected officials at a city level, at a state level, your city council, state assembly, state senators, federal, and reach out to their local offices and say, there's a problem here. My neighbors are going hungry and we need to push HRA for one to be fund or push the city to fund HRA properly, make sure we're expanding the Community Food Connections program, which will send more food to pantries across the city. And at the same time, we need to ask our elected officials to step up and demand that a budget actually reflects the needs of the community. We're going to go into budget cycle in January again, right? And we start talking about that, and it'll be the time for our elected officials to stand up and say, we need to fully fund HRA. We need to expand Community Food Connections program to get more healthy product to pantries. And we need to give frontline organizations the tools to do their work.
Well, I appreciate you coming here and kind of talking about this because we see, these organizations in our communities, serving our communities, but people don't often think about, the strain that it, what's going on behind the scenes and how it's affecting those communities that are helping us. So I appreciate you, taking the time to come down here and talk to us about this. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a great day.
To learn more about Greg and his organization efforts to fight against hunger, please go to their website at www.WSCAH.org. We have to take a quick break, but we'll be back with more Open right after this.
Most hiring algorithms would scream me out.
Some bosses couldn't see me as a leader.
I've run this place for 20 years, but I still need to prove that I'm more than what you see on paper.
I've been running code as long as I've been able to reach a keyboard.
This is what I do. It's second nature for me, coordinating 100 details at once.
The way my mind works, I have a very mechanical brain.
I sold them on my skills.
You gotta be so good they can't ignore you.
My magic is
analytics and empathy. That's how getting clients. You have to have the confidence in yourself to show up and defy the odds.
I'm more than who I am on paper.
I never got a college degree. And today, I'm the CEO of my own company. People want to tell me I'm one in a million, when actually I'm one of millions. Stars are all around us. It's time for them to shine.
Where did the time go? Somehow I lost all those years. Where did the time go? I don't know how I got here. How did I get here? I can see now.
You've done the hard part. You quit smoking. Now do the easy part and get scanned for lung cancer. If you smoked, you may still be at risk, but early detection could save your life. Talk to your doctor and learn more at savedbythescan.org.
Welcome back. As hip hop celebrates its 50th anniversary, it's important to acknowledge its massive global impact. Over the past decade, hip hop has taken over the music industry, setting trends and influencing culture. Leland Robinson, CEO of Sugar Hill Records and a pioneer of the genre, joins me to discuss his role in shaping hip hop and the future of the genre. Leland, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you for having me here.
Now, can you tell us about Sugar Hill Records, how it was founded and the motivations behind starting the label?
Okay, my mother, Sylvia Robinson, started in 1979 with the first group, Sugar Hill Gang. She went over to a birthday party over in Manhattan, I think it was, and seeing these guys rapping on the mic, which was like, the rap parties back in the days, And she took that and she thought it would be a great idea to put it on wax. And here we are 50 years later of something that she did.
Now, what was the vision she had for Sugar Hill Records, especially thinking, it's been 50 years now. So what was her initial vision?
Well, her vision was to do something different that no one's ever done before and start a new genre of music. Because prior to this, she was an artist herself and she had worked with a lot of various artists back in the days. So this was something that she wanted to do that was different. And she felt that this would work.
Now, how did her work contribute to making hip hop a recognized genre? As I mentioned, it's, a global phenomenon, and so many appreciate the genre. So, how did her work contribute to that?
Well, basically, what she did was take songs that were big in those days, and there was no sampling at the time when she did it. So she had to replay everything. And she replayed those big songs and had these guys rapping on the songs that everybody used to listen to and at the parties and stuff that they attended. And that's what her vision was, and she made a big mark in it.
Now, I could imagine that starting anything for the first time, there's going to be a lot of challenges. So what were some challenges your mom faced in establishing this genre, and how did the company overcome them?
She challenged one of our biggest challenges was they said that it wouldn't go that far. They told her that it's not going to work. They told her she didn't have to stoop that low to do this, and she went against everybody else. And as a strong Black woman, she did her thing.
Now, it's so shocking for me to hear that, considering, now we see, where hip hop has gone and what it's become. Why do you think that people probably didn't believe in the genre when it first started?
I mean, there was only rock and roll. There was R&B. there was jazz, and all other kinds of different genres of music. And it was new to everybody and everyone. So basically, like for instance, Rapper's Delight was a 15-minute record. There's never been a 15-minute record ever, you know what I mean? And when it first came out, they were forced to play the 15 minutes, you know what I'm saying? So it was something that she went against the grain to do whatever she wanted to do, and she really made it happen.
And I also want to point out the fact that, you talked about how she was a Black woman. And I think, for a long time, we talk about like women in hip hop, or we kind of like maybe separate the two into like different categories. But it's so amazing to hear that, like she was like pretty much part of, this pretty amazing genre that has grown so much. So can you just talk about, reflecting on that, what it feels to just know that your mom had a huge impact on that?
Well, it really feels good to see exactly what she started 50 years ago with this genre called hip hop. I just think that, as a woman, she had it a lot rougher than the male had it. But, she was able to overcome that and, not say no to whatever it was. And she went full speed ahead with, whatever she believed in.
Now, as CEO of Sugar Hill Records, how do you see the legacy of your mom influencing the current landscape of hip hop?
Well, she's a part of most major artists' career. She's a part of Jay-Z. She's a part of Kanye West. She's a part of Ice Cube. She's a part of Dr. Dre. She's a part of Drake. She has songs from her catalog that's on all these people's album. And the list goes on and on and on. You got the AZ, you have Nas, you have a whole bunch of, she's got a major contribution with hip hop that people really don't know about. They just know of the Rapper's Delight and Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five and all the other groups. But also she was the first to start the Latino rapping as well too, on wax.
Oh, wow. Can you tell us a little bit more about that? Because this is something that's new to me just hearing that right now.
Yeah. Well, back in, I think it was 80, 81, she had a group called the Mean Machine. And it was a Latino group. And they had Latino rappers that was rapping on the records.
Oh, wow. That's amazing. And I think it only proves how much like hip hop has influenced, so many different cultures, especially in New York City. So that's so amazing to hear.
Yeah.
Now, what principles or values from the early days of Sugar Hill Records continue to shape the label's identity?
Well, her work speaks for itself. You know what I mean? Whatever she created back then, is still coming to light now. You know what I mean? Here it is 50 years later. We're still listening to hip hop. There's a lot of great artists out there. And she still has like these samples on all these great people's albums. So, she still has a major contribution to all these artists.
Now, in 2023, we celebrate 50 years of hip hop. From your perspective, how has the genre evolved since the pioneering days of Sugar Hill Records?
Rap has changed. You know what I'm saying? It's become, what's the word I'm looking for? Well, they have like, they have commercial rap. They have, NWA had the gangster rap and stuff like that. It's a whole bunch of different ways that I love all rap music, period. You know what I mean? So I just appreciate the fact and the creativity of all these artists and what they're doing today.
Now, I kind of want to expand on that as well, that, sometimes a lot of people are very hypercritical of some newer hip hop artists. What are your thoughts on that? Because the genre has changed and there are so many subgenres. Now people are mixing, or actually they did this before, mixing rap and rock and, mixing all of the elements. So, what are your thoughts on how the genre has evolved, especially in regards to our youth today?
Wow. I want to go back to that question.
Okay.
I want to think about it for a minute.
Okay, yeah.
I want to give you the right answer.
All right. So while you think about that, what role has the label played in this ongoing evolution of hip hop?
Well, again, we've played a major part. We're a part of all of these major artists, that is still relevant now. And, and her thing was back in those days to do songs that are commercial songs that have longevity, songs that's going to be here today and be there tomorrow. You know what I mean? And that's what she, created. A lot of these rappers, they do songs for the day. And a lot of them, what songs would you be listening to 20 years from now? We're here this 50 years later. Sugar Hill Gang is still really busy. Grandmaster Flash and the Furious Five, they're still busy. They're still touring after, 40 something years of, the songs being commercialized. But, it just goes to show you when you have great music and good music, it will last forever.
Now, can you share some success stories or memorable moments that highlight the impact the label has had on artists in the industry?
Impact on success. Well, on being a part of the Jay-Z album was great. Being a part of the Kanye West, Drake, Ice Cube, Master P's, the 2 Chainz, all these people, it was a major, success for us.
Now, can you talk about maybe some of the reasons why you love hip hop? You also mentioned that you love all different types of hip hop and different artists, which I feel like sometimes people are afraid to admit that. So, can you explain, that love for you and why it's so strong?
I mean, I love hip hop because that's something that, my mother, Sylvia Robinson, started, so I love it. But I'm more of an R&B guy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And I like that actually those two genres, for me growing up, I always thought they were the same because they, were often combined together to make some really great music. So can you talk about, how hip hop also kind of have influence on other genres?
Well, yeah. Well, I think that when hip hop took off, R&B was always in existence, but they sort of combined the R&B and hip hop together. So that took the artists another step higher and basically gave them credibility of being on the rap side as well. You know what I mean? You have the Mary J. Blige's, which is a great artist. She's did, songs with just about every rapper that's was, hot in the days. And, she's the queen of hip hop, R&B, you know what I'm saying? So, that kind of stuff I like.
Now, how do you balance honoring the past while embracing and, just being more innovative in today's music landscape? Or would you say, maybe do you find that a challenge to do both, or is that something that comes naturally to you?
It's a challenge. It's just like everything else. It's a challenge to do both. You just have to, see, a lot of people don't understand this. Even with, an artist being an artist, it has a lot to do with timing, has a lot to do with luck and good music. Because there's a lot of great, artists out here.
Right.
And they just don't get the recognition because, timing is everything.
And now that you say that, I actually want to talk about so many people want to become rap artists and they want to be a part of this genre. As I mentioned, it has, grown so big. What are your thoughts on people who want to get into it? And, maybe what are some reasons people should possibly know why they're getting into it? I
just think that if you want to become an artist, know your business and, don't let nobody shut your dreams down because Sylvia Robinson had a dream and she went with it.
And what do you hope to see for the future of hip hop? It's, as I said, it's always changing. It's grown so much. What do you hope to see for the future?
I just hope it keeps going because as long as it keeps going, she'll always be recognized.
All right. Well, I want to thank you so much. Well, before we go, did you think about about your thoughts on the question?
Ask me that question again.
Okay. All right. It's okay. Don't worry about it. I want to thank you so much for joining us and, having this conversation.
Nah, no doubt about it. And if you ever need me again, I'm always here.
Thank you. Now you can follow Leland on social media, which you can find on the screen below. We've come to the end of our show today. I'd like to thank all of our guests for joining us and you, the viewers, for tuning in. If you miss any part of today's show, you can catch the recap cast at 5 and 10 p.m. on Optimum Channel 67 and Verizon Fios Channel 33, or watch anytime on the web at bronxnet.org. You can catch a brand new episode of Open with Darren Hymie on Wednesday and with Rena Valentine on Friday. I'm Kibin Alleyne, wishing you and yours safety and wellness now and always. See you next time.